Welcome back to Hardware Unboxed for a bonus round. How about that?
Crazy.
So we promised our Patreon members we would answer their questions, but we couldn't fit it all in with all the other questions that we had in part 1 and 2. So bonus round is part 3. These are all the questions that were asked on our Discord server. So yeah, they deserve their own episode. So that's what you're getting. Let's get into it.
Right, first of our Patreon questions here from none other than Sal Kagan, one of our long-term members.
This will be a doozy.
What are your guys' thoughts on the tech press in general having a bias towards gaming performance being the ultimate decider about what makes the best CPU and using that for their general recommendation as opposed to any other kind of workload? Yeah, I mean, I think any sort of press site has sort of their different things that they're looking out for. I think a lot of people, they're writing for a gaming audience, people who are interested in gaming. Certainly that's sort of our primary audience and what we're personally interested in. But you find other sites and YouTubers out there that are more interested in like workstation or server performance for various different parts.
Yeah, like your level 1 techs, for example, Wendell over there. Yep.
So, it's a perfectly valid workload gaming. I think it's always good to have a look at all sorts of different things. So, balance that out with your sort of your creative workloads, your other productivity stuff. So, yeah, what are your thoughts as well on this?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no tech media handbook. Like, we're not all playing by the same rules. And I mean, Tim and I do this job because we enjoy it, and we do the content we enjoy doing. Like, I do CPU and GPU benchmarks because that's what interests me and I enjoy doing. And Tim does his in-depth monitor stuff because he enjoys that. Like, before Tim, there was no monitor stuff because I don't really enjoy the monitor testing, but Tim loves it and he puts together some awesome content pieces around it, which I actually enjoy watching, but I wouldn't enjoy making them. So we do what we enjoy. And we both enjoy gaming, even though we don't really get to do much of it, but we both enjoy it when we get to. And yeah, we both like to know how to optimize our PCs for a good gaming experience. And that's why we make the content we do. And obviously then our audience want to know about gaming performance. So if we started doing Linux benchmarks or something, you guys would all be scratching. I did a Linux video once and it got okay views, better than it probably should have, but it was more because it got spread around a bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of use for PCs these days is you don't really need to benchmark for it. Like a lot of people buy PC and they just run a web app. And I sort of think, how many people out there are using Premiere on their PC or a creative app like that versus how many people are gaming? And I tend to think, wouldn't you say there's more PC gamers than people that use an app like Premiere?
On planet Earth, maybe not, but yeah, well, Premiere, yeah, that's right. A specific...
How many video editors are out there versus how many PC gamers?
Right? Yeah. I know what you're saying, like a specific app, and that's the other problem because, okay, so first of all, just to circle back before we get too far into it, we do test applications in all our day one reviews, so we don't just test games. To make that clear, usually our further investigations into performance are gaming focused, but we do, in our day one coverage for CPUs, test games. But then obviously, test applications. But then when we test GPUs, obviously it's all gaming based stuff. But then, getting back to the application thing, it's a tough one, as Tim's saying, because if we test Premiere, that means nothing for people who use Vegas.
Yeah.
So
I think
applications are so application dependent.
Yeah, I mean, there's general things you can take out of, like, how long does it take to encode a video, because that's similar-ish.
Sure.
I mean, you can make the same argument for gaming, as in not everyone plays the same games, but I think in general, you sort of get a fairly typical, like, the performance is fairly constrained within certain bounds to what you're going to see in games.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a lot harder to sort of do the productivity testing and sort of find relevant stuff to what people are doing, because I think a lot of the things that require a high performance CPU these days, there's a lot of niche applications, but there's no real like big general thing that everyone does in their PC that you really need, like a high performance CPU.
I think it boils down to the fact as well, if I did a 30 game benchmark video, you guys would love that, and a lot of you would watch it. We get a pretty good percentage of our audience watching those. If I did a 30 application benchmark, not sure that'd do super well, and I'm not sure I'd be super interested in doing it, which is probably the main takeaway there. But anyway, we've probably addressed that question from enough angles.
I'd say so, yeah.
We'll move on to the next one. And this one is from Jeremy. So it's a question for both of us, so we can both get in on the action on this one. What got both of you into the PC world? any source of inspiration, hook, maybe family passing down the interest onto their children or something. Well, I'll start because mine's quick and easy. I just liked computers as a kid. Like we got a family computer and I got hooked to that way. Both my parents hated it. I loved it. And went from there. Yeah, just didn't really know how to use it. I was sort of grade 5, grade 6, 486 it was. Then I sort of got more into console gaming after that. Then in high school, got really interested in how it all worked, building my own computer. And then, yeah, got my own job, saved up some money and decided to build my own computer. Fumbled through that process, eventually got it working and never looked back. Been hooked ever since.
Very, very similar here. Okay. I'd say very similar in sort of, family had a PC available, in the house, probably from a younger age than you. I've certainly, for the entire time I can remember, the sort of just, whether I was just opening up a Word document and hitting the keyboard as a toddler, apparently I used to do that to have a bit of fun. So, yeah, then I didn't really get into console gaming until after I got into PC gaming. I sort of we had this sort of family PC, put in a GPU in there, played a couple of games, and then I was sort of like, oh, console's the sort of thing, I'll try that out. Then sort of got back into PCs, built a few of my own, and yeah, went from there. I think, all starts in a similar way for most people, I think. Those things are just in the house, so you use them, have a bit of fun with them as a kid. Back then
in particular, at least this is my recollection of the situation, the jump from console to PC, if you had like a Voodoo graphics card, was significant in terms of 3D acceleration, graphic performance and all that.
Yeah. So
that's really what got me excited about computers, was just how much it blew my Nintendo away. It's just amazing. And yeah, it's interesting because now that I've been a parent for a while, I've got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my 6-year-old loves Fortnite because she's a kid. And all her friends play on console, and she wanted to play on console. I made her learn keyboard and mouse, and now she's like so much better than all of the other kids that play. Yeah. And she's learnt computer skills, like she can type, she can use a mouse and keyboard. So I think it's important not to still have an old desktop compuder, because it's such the hip thing now, I think, for families to have tablets and
that's what I was going to say. That. So I think a lot of people, not as many people are going to get into PC gaming when there's not that family PC available there that you can maybe nag your parents into getting a faster GPU so you can play Fortnite on or whatever.
Yeah, well, none of the kids, none of my daughter's friends have a desktop PC at home, if you can believe that.
Yeah, no,
or none worth using.
But
anyway.
It's what's happening these days.
Yeah,
it's just not.
So consoles and tablets.
It's almost from the previous question where I say you don't really need a powerful desktop PC to do a lot of stuff people use a PC for anymore. So people don't have them, so then kids aren't getting into gaming. It's sort of...
And I'm getting off topic here on this Q&A, but me and my wife laugh and say it's like that movie Idiocracy, or what was it?
Oh, yeah.
And they went back to drinking Gatorade and using that for the crops and everything. That's going to be like tablets. Like we've gone back from typing on desktop, like we've gone from devices that can be used for productivity to just content consumption, which is great for everyone watching YouTube. Watch us on your tablet.
Yeah, please keep buying your tablets so you can watch our content.
But anyway, probably getting a bit off topic there, but I think it's good for kids to learn keyboard and mouse skills because it gives them a massive head start, in my opinion. So enough Dr. Phil. We'll get on with the next question, which is from Net7. Any thoughts on the continual handicap AMD Mobile APUs? This will be a Tim question. I have had since launch, and we'll see to have this second gen. What's he saying here?
We'll seem to have with.
Oh, we'll seem. Sorry, upcoming generation, i.e., locked to DDR4 2400, GPU thermal limit of 75 degrees before the GPU and CPU speeds will tank. So sorry for butchering that question a bit.
I mean, you never want to see handicaps with any sort of hardware. I think it's just sort of the situation that they're in with sort of, especially on the AMD, the Ryzen desktop platform with the RAM, for example, it's very easy on a desktop to just run at whatever RAM speeds you want. You just set the XMP profile, away you go, you're all good. Mm-hmm. Whereas with a laptop, these are all heavily validated systems for OEMs, and if your base spec is DDR4 2400 and you're not going to support DDR4 3000 as sort of an officially supported spec, then you run into these problems. And I think that AMD wants to maintain maximum compatibility, which is why they set it for 2400, keep things more affordable.
We saw that with my first gen chip that my Ryzen 7 1700 used to work with DDR4 3200. degradation of the IMC, and now it only works at like 2933 or something. And people were like, "Why are you only testing it then?" I'm like, "All it works at now." Yeah, so they can't validate laptops for that and then have that sort of situation happen.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it'd be great. It'd be great if they could have validated that for higher, but it's just not going to happen. The GPU thermal limit is a bit different. I'm imagining that there's some sort of reason, engineering-wise, why it's limited to 75.
Well, so AMD, you have to understand. I mean, again, I don't want to sound like an AMD fanboy or anything here. I'm just trying to state the facts as they are. AMD's fighting many battles on many fronts, and they've been losing for a while, and now they've made a big comeback with Ryzen, but they've really got to make some serious inroads with the OEMs. So there's not that much. I've talked about this with the RX 570 versus the GTX 1650 because of things like efficiency or however that comes about. AMD components are often cheaper to purchase but more expensive to integrate, so the laptops will need more cooling and things like that. And because they haven't had a great track record through the bulldozer days, they don't have the OEM support that Intel has. So, you know, Dell, HP, they're not going to go, "Oh, here's a new AMD APU. Let's engineer the crap out of this, you know, make it a real premium product, use all the best materials, you know, big copper coolers and all that kind of stuff." It's just, let's make a really cheap low-end AMD unit and move a couple of those. So, yeah. That I think that's is that fair?
I think that those are all issues that sort of it's going to take time for all that stuff to be worked out.
Over time, all those things will come together.
And I think, you know, the second generation of Ryzen Mobile APUs, it's like a very minor clock speed increase, so it's not nothing to get crazy about.
Well, they're still Zen Plus.
Yeah, they're still Zen Plus.
So the Zen 2 will be like next
100 megahertz more. It's like whatever. Probably wait till next gen to see what they've got.
Well, and that's part of a lot of people have been saying, why are they only Zen Plus? And that's probably a big part of the reason. They're still making those inroads. There's no reason throwing Zen 2 out there when it's going to get put in crap products.
Well, it's just their timeline as well.
Yeah, also their timeline.
The original Zen APUs were 2000 series products as well, so...
Yeah, yep.
All right. Peter Hermina? Probably butchering that name there.
We've got 2 questions from Peter, so you got it.
You got this first one.
You got a second crack at that.
Do you see a revival of multi-monitor gaming setups? What about professional use? Do you use multi-display setup? So for gaming, it's probably dead. So
I did a couple of benchmarks and a couple of articles back for TechSpot in the day with those Dell 30-inch panels.
Infinity, Nvidia Surround.
Yeah.
It's not as, like, I used to use that setup, and I thought, oh, wow, this is going to be so amazing. There's just so many technical problems getting it set up, and just to have a single 21.9 monitor is way better.
The bezels suck, even in if everything.
Thin. Yeah, it's
even
like
thin bezels.
Bezels, compatibility, all of that is better with just a single wider monitor. So I think that is where gaming's going to go. As for professional use, multi-display is still really popular. I personally use a 21.9 monitor and a 16.9 monitor together for all my work stuff, and that's great. So I think it's not going to die there. But for gaming, it's... I don't think it's ever really been great, so can't see it reviving either. No,
I agree with all of that. I technically use a triple monitor setup, but I use triple computers as well. So I've got my main monitor in the middle, test system. That's the most efficient way for me to benchmark.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
So, yeah.
Peter, not going to bother with the last name this time. His second question, are AVX instructions important in gaming? What do you reckon?
That's a pretty tough one to answer. How do you determine if it's important?
Well, we don't really know we know there's some examples where they've definitively stated that the game uses AVX, but without knowing how the game's coded, it's kind of hard to say whether they use it or
like
not.
Assassin's Creed, Origins, Odyssey, those games have AVX support, and we know that they run significantly better with CPUs that support AVX because I've done benchmarks, and your older Intel X58 Xeons, for example, tank in that game badly without AVX instructions. And they said that the advanced, or the AVX instructions, which are CPU commands, they use them for some advanced vector operations that allows them to do them faster. So, which makes sense because they're advanced vector extensions.
Yep.
So that's pretty vague, pretty much as you'd expect. And I don't know how many games are really using AVX instructions, but I don't think they're vital or super important for gaming, but if utilized, they can speed stuff up.
Yep.
So we were going to skip this question from Durizo123, but I've decided to read it because it's kind of funny. So keep in mind, this question was asked before the GTX 1650 was released, because we're filming this late because Tim was sick. Again, Tim, we're never going to let it down that Tim got sick.
Yeah. I got sick. Yeah.
But I'm going to read this question out because it's really funny having this question asked before the GTX 1650 release. So here is the question. Could the GTX 1650 and GTX 1650 Ti potentially turn out to be the most important releases from Nvidia's Turing lineup? So
they're not the most important releases, are they?
I was waiting for you to address that one. They could have been really, really, really impressive, and they could have got good reviews from that. But obviously, Nvidia didn't want to part with that silicon for $100. They wanted to make $150, and that makes the 1650 kind of crap, as we've said over and over and over again. At $100, it would have got a rave review. So we need a 33% discount. Otherwise, they can keep their 1650 as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
So anyway, pretty funny comment looking back at it now. But yeah. Our good mate Jardeath. So this is Jared from Jared's Tech. If you haven't checked out his channel and you care about laptops, and he does really good GPU comparisons as well, then I'd head over to his channel. So that is Jared's Tech. Anyway, is 1650 Ti a thing? Again, this was asked before the 1650 launch or release.
Yep. Hadn't
heard any mention of it yet. So the 1650 Ti we think is a thing. It's been rumored to be a thing, but we have no concrete evidence. But it should be the full die. So the full TU116 die. That's correct. So that means it would have the same CUDA core count as the GTX 1060 3GB. And that had probably landed around GTX 1060 6GB performance. It'd only be, maybe at best. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
It's another SM unit, so it'll be a little bit faster, but they're probably going to charge 180 for it, so it's not going to be good value either.
Yep.
So it'll still get beaten by an RX 570, so it'll actually be a lot worse value probably. Anyway, I'm just guessing.
That's if that card exists.
That's if it exists, and that's if it comes at those specs and that price. So yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, besides the 8700Ks you have, do you also have other multiple pieces of the same hardware? How did that happen or why? Well, we have two Century 2.0 builds with all the same hardware. So nice. That happened.
Check out that video if you haven't.
Yep. So yeah, we have two 8700Ks because, we got three actually, but we've got two because I need one, Tim needs one. Sometimes that happens because we've bought another one, or sometimes that happens because the company was generous enough to send us two. Yeah. If we end up with I think I got two RX 590s because I did a CrossFire test. Yeah.
Just watched your new video on the RT performance on Pascal, so I'm guessing this was also from a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Thanks as always for the great content. Yeah, you're welcome. I was curious if the 1660 Ti fares any better with RT with the added tensor cores. I'm aware it's not Pascal. So I don't actually have a 1660 Ti yet.
Pretty easy to answer.
So I haven't tested it, but my assumption is that it's better than the equivalent Pascal product, but not that much faster.
And my assumption is it's still garbage.
Yeah, well, pretty much.
With ray tracing enabled. The 1660 Ti is a fantastic value graphics card, so put your green pitchforks down. I very much like it, but
don't use it for ray tracing. Don't use Pascal. Maybe don't use ray tracing. I mean, unless you have a really powerful product and you're already right at the limit of what you're doing, and you can sort of add ray tracing without harming too much performance. But on Pascal, man, it is slow, and the 1660 Ti, not going to be
We've seen the
good.
2080 Ti, so enough said.
Yeah. Okay, from L Pi. Question for you, maybe, Steve.
Right.
How much would it help to know in RAM sticks their memory names, or more like who did the memory chips for that stick? At least for these Ryzen gens, I think it'd help a lot. Having them works well with Ryzen feels quite clumsy. For example, under the spec sheet on the RAM sticks box, it says Samsung B-die chips in some kind of layout or something like that. How much would that help?
Oh, yeah, not much. It'd probably almost become like a marketing thing just to sell memory, because I know everyone loves Samsung B-Die, and rightfully so, but not all Samsung B-Die is created equally. So there's a binning process, so your absolute cream of the crop will end up on your high frequency with slightly lower latencies. But then you can get Samsung B-Die that's not that great, and that'll sell on your cheaper memory. So that doesn't really help either. Really, you've just got to look at what overclockers or guys are testing with. So whether it's like your G-Skill Flare X or Sniper X, or some sort of Corsair memory that will naturally be using Samsung B-Die, but they'll generally use, for like a Flare X, they'll use a binned part to achieve those. So if it's CL14, for example, at 3200, then it's going to be a high quality B-Die chip. So you've just got to do your research, really. There's no, I mean, it's not too difficult, because there are some brands and series that we know work well with Ryzen. But then you don't want to get too caught up in the memory thing, because unless you're, shooting for absolute maximum FPS with some low resolution gaming, then it doesn't really matter. Like if you're gaming with an RTX 2080 Ti at 4K, then your memory becomes irrelevant, really. Assuming we're talking about gaming here. But then even for applications, the performance uplift isn't massive anyway with your tightened memory. So you're best off just, doing your research and seeing what others are finding works well. And hopefully it'll be less of a problem with Zen 2. Don't know. We'll find out.
Revel Devil 2000 asks, why do some monitors have stickers on them that say compatible with Windows 10 or any other OS? Is there any merit to this, or is this just a marketing thing to make the less tech-savvy people more comfortable about a purchase? I do believe that to get that sticker on there, it does have to undergo some sort of validation, like they have to prove something. There's probably some money exchange or something like that to get the sticker on there. But yeah, basically, as you say, I think it is just so that less tech-savvy people can go, this is guaranteed to work with what I have because there's a sticker on the box.
Yep.
I'd be astonished if there was a monitor that wasn't compatible with Windows 10.
That's not a thing.
It's just something that shouldn't happen. But I mean, if it helps some people, it helps some people. I don't really see a problem with it, but it doesn't matter a lot to me.
No. It's probably got like a certified Windows 10 driver or something as well, but I don't know.
All right, Steve, what is your worst experience in benchmarking?
Worst experience in benchmarking. Holy moly, just threw that. I'm going to put my foot in it. Saying my worst experience recently was definitely the Radeon VII. That was a nightmare. Yeah. And then, oh boy, I'm throwing myself in the deep end here. And then Ryzen 7. First gen, so that would have been the Ryzen 7. What was it? The 1800X, the 1700X, and the 1700X.
I remember you had a lot of problems with that.
Oh man, that was the week from hell for a lot of tech reviewers. So, AMD kind of, giving us some fun there. And then, apart from any sort of specific product launches, I would say things that are the worst experience when benchmarking, or the worst experiences, are like any game that requires you to either quit to the main menu to change the resolution, or like reset the whole game for a resolution change. That drives me crazy. Yep. Monster Hunter World is one that comes to mind. You have to quit to the main menu, change the resolution, and then I think the game has to be reset as well. So that sucks.
It's a shocker, that one.
Resetting a game for quality setting changes is fine.
Not for me. I hate that.
Well, I like to do it though, because I do it even when it tells you not to do it. Just because sometimes you do need to do it. So I've gotten to that habit. Resolution changes, though, that drives me bananas. And anything from the Windows Store.
Yeah, Windows Store, man, is so bad.
So crap.
It still is so bad. Like, people complain about the Epic Store, but the Windows Store is still...
Yeah, like every few weeks I have to fully re-download the 80 gigabyte Forza Horizon 4. Ugh. Anyway. Yeah, can't wait to drop the Windows Store from testing. I'm never picking it up again, no matter how much you guys twist my arm. Anyway.
Do you guys see AMD opening up CrossFire DX11 support for Radeon 7? Do you think this technology would be hard to implement on the Radeon 7, considering its similarities to Vega 64? Or do you think there is a hardware reason that DX11 CrossFire isn't enabled on the Radeon 7? Can't see why there'd be a hardware reason.
No. I'm more surprised about the whole CrossFire thing. I hadn't even thought about it. I had no intention of ever doing a Radeon 7 CrossFire test for the same reasons I haven't done any RTX SLI testing. I really don't like the whole dual GPU thing because it's never as good as it seems.
It hasn't been good for like a very long time.
Yeah, there's people that argue black and blue in the face that it's fantastic and reviewers don't know what they're doing or this or that, or there's always some excuse. But I've had friends use it, nightmare. I've tried using it in the past because I have like over 100 GPUs and I've got a few doubles and it's just not worth it. So
yeah, I've done it in the past as well.
Yeah, I've got
both brands.
I've got I've got 3 Vega 56 cards and I just stick one in my system.
Yep.
And I game at 4K. I just don't want to deal with the headaches associated with having multiple GPUs. It just never works as well as it should. So yeah, I mean, I haven't really answered that question, but I'm sort of letting you know that I haven't looked into it because I don't really care.
Yeah, and I don't think they will because it's a very niche sort of thing.
Yeah, they're probably more focused on just getting the drivers optimized and working and new titles for just one GPU. So, yeah.
For some benchmark videos, why show only a third of the games tested? Isn't it a waste of time to test them but not include them in the video? I know you include them in the conclusion part, but might as well show them in their own graph.
Okay.
Timing, isn't it?
Well, there's a few reasons. So back when we started the channel, like we used to do around 12, 15 games, and that was considered a lot. But then I kept, people requesting more games. I was interested in how these things matched up over a wider variance of games and a wider range of games. So we just started testing more and more. But then I can't recall at what point we changed to this new format, but I remember when we were getting like 20 plus games, the videos were running past 30 minutes of me just talking about graph after graph after graph after graph, and I was kind of getting bored with it. Like I like just talking about the new games because I find that interesting how things are stacking up in the new games, but going over The Witcher 3 and over and over and over and over and over again, the margins never really change because it's a super old game now, or Grand Theft Auto 5, or whatever it happens to be. I got bored, commentating on those results. So if I'm bored doing it, I have to imagine that a lot of people watching it are bored. And there's only so many graphs I can expect you guys to sit through. And I'm talking about the majority of the audience. And I feel like a dozen is kind of like the most people can handle. And so it's a massive job for me to script a 30-game benchmark and then go through all the graphs. And then proofing a 30-minute video is, significantly more in-depth than a 15-minute video. And there's watch time, which is probably the ultimate deciding factor here, is the fact that watch time really governs how well a video does. And it's sort of watch percentage as well. But anyway, there's a whole heap of factors there for why we've optimized. And at the end of the day, I'm really most interested in those big breakdown graphs at the end.
Yeah, so am I.
They're what really interest me, and I enjoy doing them. And that's why I've sort of made that half the video now, is going through those graphs and cost per frame and stuff. And then if you're interested, the graphs are all on the Patreon page. So if you want to check any of them out for yourself, then you can do that. But yeah, I don't think you guys need me to break down 30 plus games and spend 40 minutes doing it or whatever. Steve, do you and the other guy play with or without FPS counters during your personal gaming sessions? One option allows you to focus on what's really important when you're in the game, so that must be performance, FPS counter. And the other option is playing... oh, sorry, I should have just finished the bloody question. And the other option is playing without FPS counters. I think the way I go about it generally is I set the gaming PC up correctly, or as best I can, get it all fully optimized. If it's a new game, I usually fire the game up, and if it's got an inbuilt benchmark, I'll run that, tune the settings, or just play the game and work out, whether I have to do any resolution, downscaling, if I have to adjust any kind of settings, and I'll get it in the sweet spot. Because as I say, I play with a Vega 56 mostly. I do have a separate gaming system, but I'm too lazy to use it most of the time. So that's embarrassing. But yeah, I usually just work out where I optimize it first, then just play and don't monitor performance.
Yeah, same here. Bit of FPS counter at the start to sort of figure out what's required, and then switch it off and just enjoy the game. Yeah,
actually, the only thing I do turn on is ping. If the game has an option, most of the multiplayer games do, put my ping up just so I can monitor that. So if I die, I can quickly look up and go, oh, look how high my ping is. Flame it on my ping. It helps me. It helps me respawn and get on with it.
Sal Kagan asks, what do you guys think of the current state of PC hardware, and what non-GPU CPU hardware are you hoping to see at Computex this year? I think the state of PC hardware is probably fine.
Yeah, a lot of bitching and moaning goes on about RTX and this and that. I mean,
yeah,
we've done a fair bit of RTX bashing ourselves, but as I've said many times, I think the GTX 1660 Ti, even the RTX 2060. I mean, yeah, there's a 6 gig VRAM thing, but I still think they're pretty good cards. They're certainly better than what the other team's giving us. So I don't have a problem with the state of things. I think AMD's CPUs are fantastic, value for money. So the CPU front's certainly never been anywhere near as good as it is right now.
Yeah.
And the GPU front's fine. We've got memory prices have come down, SSD prices have come down. It's kind of funny. I always sort of think, what the hell are you on about when people bitch and moan about how terrible PC gaming is right now and that RTX cards suck and Nvidia's milking us dry and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from. But at the same time, were you alive like 8 months ago? 12 months? Like, how bad was it last year?
Yeah.
Like,
GPU prices doubled the MSRP.
RAM prices were insane. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. Yeah, I did a video in January saying now is a good time to build a PC. And I still think now is a good time to build a PC. At this point, I'd probably wait till Zen 2 comes along and Navi and whatnot. But, yeah, I mean, you can build a PC for a reasonable amount of money and it'll let you play all the latest and greatest games at pretty high quality settings.
Yeah.
So what more can you ask for?
What are you hoping to see at Computex? Probably just... I mean, we're hoping for, some new announcements and that sort of thing from the big companies, as you would expect. Probably not too much from Intel or Nvidia on that front, but certainly AMD.
Yeah, I think everyone's pumped for what AMD is going to bring, really.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, you said non-GPU and CPU hardware, so I mean, the new X570 motherboards, which are rumored to be there, are not super exciting, but that's something at least. I just like going around and seeing sort of not necessarily the products that can be bought now, but sort of like the prototype stuff that is sort of going to become what's available in the next couple of years. Like when you see this sort of new thing that a company's working on and you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Some of it seems really dumb, like your water-cooled power supplies. And
or memory sort of and all that. Yeah. I mean, but that's the other thing as well. Like they're really trying to stand out. And for us, that's a good thing. Like again, mechanical keyboards, mice, storage, your SSDs, cases, power supplies, like the amount of options we have available now, and they're all really competitively priced. So I think the PC hardware market is awesome at the moment, personally.
Yeah, it's good. Final question here. Final one all this time. When is your preferred time to benchmark? Do you guys prefer to start during the day or during the night?
What about you?
Considering I don't do a whole ton of benchmarking like you do, a lot of my monitor testing and stuff, I usually just do at night, sort of like watch a TV show, do some benchmarking, because it's kind of, you just sit there, you get the numbers, you put them into Excel and go away with it. What about you?
Yeah, it's funny. I like to have a TV show on. I'm focused on the benchmarking. It's kind of weird. I don't actually watch it. I used to do a lot of documentaries and I sort of, it's like, you
listen like a podcast.
Yeah, like a podcast. It's kind of background noise and it makes the boring parts of running the same benchmark over and over again less boring. And then I get the results, which I find interesting. So, yeah, for me, the afternoon is definitely when I usually start testing. And then depending on how much testing I've got to do, I can go on to the early hours in the morning of the next day. But yeah, I don't like to benchmark in the morning. That's my email time.
Oh, really? I usually... Yeah, my work schedule is kind of interesting. Like, usually the second half of the day, like the afternoon, that's usually like video editing time, like video production.
Yeah, yep.
Doing B-roll, sort of like getting all the stuff required for videos, and either that will then go into, for that video that is going out that day, so putting that all together and uploading it, or just collecting that all for the next sort of time. And in the morning, I tend to do a lot of like finishing up testing, script writing, all that sort of thing, to sort of get that done and sort of do some other things, and then testing can be done around that.
Yeah, well, that's not too dissimilar to myself. So I have two different types of days. One day is a day where I film, and the format's slightly different, and one day is a day where I test. So, but generally the morning is get out of bed, emails. I usually do that for a bit, then have breakfast, then a bit more emails. So just business side of things, whether it's organizing samples, going back and forth with companies on problems or working things out or whatever. And then from that, I usually move into, script writing. Or if it's a filming day, I go film, then edit. So, and that's pretty much that day. And then on the days that aren't filming, script writing, research. I usually do that up till about lunchtime, have lunch, and then I usually have to get into some form of testing. And then I do that for as long as it takes. So, that's kind of how I've structured it. That's how my body and brain like to handle things. And it works well. Well, thank you to all our Patreon members for their continued support and their fantastic questions. That was a lot of fun. That wraps up the April Q&As. And we'll do it all again in about 3 weeks. So actually, we might have to squeeze that in before Computex.
Yeah, Computex is the last week of May, so we're going to have to...
By the time you guys are watching this, it's probably less than 3 weeks before we go. So, we'll see how we go. We might even do it at Computex. I don't know.
Who knows?
We'll see how much time we've got. But that would be kind of cool. We'll probably do a live stream from Computex as well.
Yeah, that'd be nice. We did one last year, so do it again.
Mega mix. Anyway, we'll work it out. Thank you very much for watching, as always. And...
What are you making me do it first this time? I fooled you in the last one by trying to get in.
I'm your host, Steve.
I'm your host, Tim. And we'll see you in the next one.